With the release of Celestial Guardians comes Rayquaza EX. But the only way to get a full art is to win 50 matches. In this video, I want to show you what I think is likely to be the fastest possible way to get these 50 wins. Fully using automatic matches, you don't have to play. I'm going to give you the deck list, show you a few matches to show you what it looks like, as well as even commenting on a few alternatives. So let's get into it. Alright, so what I've got on the screen, in the middle we've got the deck list that I used to accomplish this, and on the left and the right are just a few matches. I had to win, 50 matches to get the full art Rayquaza EX, so I figured I'd just let you get a little taste of what it looks like as your AI auto matching these computer opponents to get a really quick 50 wins. So you can keep your eyes on those while I explain a little bit of my logic here. So the basic idea in Pokemon TCG Pocket to get wins as fast as you possibly can, and of course not really have to do anything, you can just kind of do something in the background, do some household chores or something like that, is to use the auto battle function available to us and to use a deck list that is basically guaranteed to win, wins as few moves as possible, and with as few animations and cards used as possible, because every time you play an EX, every time you play any kind of supporter, item, tool, whatever card, it's going to slow the match down. If you go into the solo battle mode, there's different ranked difficulties. If you go to the lowest difficulty, we have a couple choices of what kind of deck we can build and how we can try to get these ultra fast wins. Ultimately, I decided to challenge the original Genetic Apex Fire Beginner battles. These allow us to use Articuno EX, which I think most people should have access to at this point. And we can build a deck that won every single game that I played. I must have played around 20, 30, 40 matches with this deck today. All AFK, just hitting it every couple minutes to keep it going, and it won every single time. So it was about 30 to 40 wins in a row, and the timing was actually extremely consistent also. Every single match, I actually timed about 20 or 30 matches, and I kept track just to let you know in this video. So as soon as you're done with this video, you're going to be ready to go, and you'll know pretty much exactly how long it's going to take you to get that full art Rayquaza EX, depending on how many victories you've got at this point already. I'm assuming most people at this point, you've probably got at least 5 to 10 wins. You've probably done the Rayquaza event a little bit. You've probably got 5 to 10, maybe even more, 15, 20 victories under your belt at this point. But maybe you just really need that second Rayquaza EX, or you really want that full art. So first off, how long is it going to take you? Well, when I timed these matches, let me just tell you about how long it took, okay? Reading from top to bottom a few matches, we had 2 minutes and 45 seconds, 2 minutes and 39, 2 minutes and 39 again, 2:33, 2 minutes 29, then we had a couple 3 minute and 6 seconds, 3 minutes, 2 minutes and 18 seconds, and so on and so forth. They always averaged out to around in the region of about 2 minutes and 30 seconds to 3 minutes. So let's just take an approximation and say it's about 2 minutes and 45 seconds per match. That means that with this strategy, you can actually consistently get over 20 wins every hour just doing this and not really having to play. You check in about every 2 to 3 minutes, you click a couple times, and you'll be done with this in about 2 hours, let's say. Again, given that most people should have at least 10 wins or so at this point, I'm going to say pretty much anybody watching this video, you can get your Rayquaza EX in less than 2 hours from where you're starting at this point, just doing this strategy. It's super easy. You don't really have to do anything. So feel free to just go ahead and copy my deck list. If you notice in the deck list, again, it looks a little weird maybe from what you're expecting. It's 2 Articuno EXs, and then it's just a bunch of higher stage Pokemon, just colorless, so that it didn't mess with the energy. Not that it matters, of course. You can always just manually edit the energy. And the reason I do this is because, again, we just want to make the matches as fast as humanly possible. And in order to do that, we don't want anything else. We don't want any other Pokemon because there's a little animation that plays. It takes more time. And the AI is so unbelievably stupid in this game that sometime it'll just randomly want to power up your bench instead of powering up your live active Articuno in the front or whatever you're using in the front. So if we just use a bunch of useless stage 1-2s, then all that's going to happen is the game is going to start, play the Pokemon, energy it up, and just keep attacking until you get all of those victories. It should be as fast as possible. There shouldn't be a faster way than this. I will go ahead and say one final thing about this strategy. The only way that I think you could potentially get a little tiny bit faster than this is if you perfectly managed the attacks. So for example, Passimian has a 60 damage attack. I think if you went up against the electric beginner battles, that might actually be just a little bit faster, because you should pretty much always get that kill once you've got 2 energies. Every once in a while with Articuno, you know, you don't always get that first turn, the second turn kill where you've got 2 energies and you hit for 40. Doesn't always kill. You can just look on the right of the screen. It just hit a Jigglypuff for 2 energies. It left it with 20 health. I think with like a Passimian, but you know, not everybody necessarily has that card right now, so I didn't want to mess with that. I think pretty much everybody's got Articuno EX. Even Articuno EX is generally gonna kill with those 2 energies. All right, everybody, that's it. I don't want to make this video go unnecessarily long, so I'll leave it at that. I'm also going to throw in one more thing. I'm going to leave a deck list, actually, that did pretty well in a recent tournament down in the description below. You can check that out if you want. It's a Dialga list, and I feel like if you want to actually now go ahead and play your Rayquaza EX, I feel like this list might be a decent one to go ahead and use as a starter list to just try to slot the Rayquaza EX in. I assume probably Dialga EX is going to pair best with it. So I went ahead and went through some recent tournament results. This was from tournament, I think, within the last week, just to try to also help you out. And if you actually want to see Rayquaza EX in action, I plan on probably using it a fair amount for the first few days, maybe even enter a tournament with it or something. We'll see. So go ahead and you can subscribe to the channel if you want to also see a little gameplay alongside as well. Once you get your Rayquaza EX to see, and I plan on covering it, it would help me a lot if you subscribe, like the video if this helps you out. And now you're about 2 hours away from going ahead and get that Rayquaza EX. So enjoy, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.